they'll be calling you a radical. This is a real historic, important video. So, my mom worked at the Intermountain Indian School. My grandparents lived in Brigham City, Utah. So, the so-called Indian School. So, the Indian School that nobody knows anything about was there. I used to hang out there. This is a great story. This is important because these have been sitting in my grandmother's basement. These were made by the Navajos at the school. There's a furniture factory in there. My mom worked there. She would ride from Ogden to Brigham City every day. She grew up in Lava, Idaho, and then they moved to Brigham City, Utah. She would ride with Mr. Goddard. Mr. Goddard owned this furniture factory, exploiting native labor. So, real important. They sat in my grandma's basement until she passed in 2001. L.F. Potter Hunsaker. Ike Potter, the famous, his last living grandchild, was married to Abraham Hunsaker IV. Think about those two historic together. Anyway, stay with me. You screw this up? Always. So, pass out the smallpox blankets. These are as rare gets. They've set in my garage. So, as you know, they've been in this garage I've been fighting for my life for almost 9 years. Given 2 months to live. I've been traveling all over the world. So, these desks came out of West Weaver Elementary. The Frank Lloyd Wright, Leslie Hodson masterpiece. These monsters tore down. I want to donate these. These belong in a museum. So here's the difference. Now, I knew Billy Mills. He autographed that for me. I was a distance runner. This is a great story. Billy Mills, I love that guy. So me and my grandson watched a river runs through it last night. Bill Monroe has an article out in Oregon right now about the stillhead. We took the TV outside. He built him a little wigwam teepee. He's dagging all this stuff that's been drug out here. I'll show it to you. And we watched it outside. So, by the way, let's see if I can get this. I talked to the girl that I was dating, worked at the Sizzler in 12th and Washington, which is the old Mount Fork Junior High. She called me one day. Kevin, guess who's in here? It was before cell phones or whatever. Robert Redford, come down here. So we were drinking as usual, went down there, met him. Pretty creepy looking dude on purpose. You know, he moved here, he was going to do all this for Utah, and then he started bad-mouthing people. Peasants, you know, he's an elitist. But that movie is a masterpiece. I grew up just like that. I grew up fishing on those rivers, fly fishing. So Edward Teller, this is his shirt. I found this at the Pacific Beach. Hello. Hello. Yeah. Let me call you right back there, young man. Okay? Hey, bye. It's my other grandson. They're driving me crazy. I've been raising him. Talk about athletes. So I was a distance runner. Waukesha High. I remember they had the wood goal posts. We didn't have track. We made some gasoline, made the track. I had a really horrible coach named Lamar Hershey, who was really abusive to me, who destroyed me in a lot of ways. I was a great distance runner. I used to run against Ed Eyestone himself. I used to beat him. So he'd beat me. I love that. He's a piece of gem. So I had a coach in the 8th grade when I first started running. The 9th grade was Lamar Hershey, who was horrible, who destroyed me in a lot of ways. What he did to me is criminal. So in the 8th grade, I'm a really good distance runner. I started out, I would just kind of manage, you know, and I said, no, I don't want to run. He said, come on, come on, come on. By the end, he had me running. I was winning meets all over. He took us up to the so-called Indian school. And he said, I'm taking you there to teach you young men some things. Coach Reed, he was a great coach. So we went up there. I was the number one, probably 800, the 880 we called it. I was probably the number one in the county, even in 8th grade. I was that good. You know, I grew up here on this landscape like they did, running, walking all day, every day. This beautiful marsh, this place that I grew up on. Here in San Diego, PB with my grandparents. Don't cry, Kevin. So we go up there, and I can run. He says, I want you to race against these kids. Okay. So there's a few Native boys and a few of us. Starter gun goes off. I'm a pacer. I'm a stalker. I'm pacing and I'm pacing. This Native boy goes out with this beautiful long straight hair. By the way, the boys had the more beautiful hair than the girls, the Navajo. Straight. They were so beautiful. My mom worked there. The eagle painted on the big walls you drive into Brigham City, they tore down. The chief, who was friends with my grandma, who I knew, was friends with my mom. Navajo had a bricklaying shop in there. So he takes off. I'm like, he's going. I mean, he's in a dead sprint right off the get. I'm like, he's got to be mistaken. He must think he must be confused. He must think we're running the 440. It's called the 880 in those days. This is 1974. I was the artist. I designed the yearbook covers. I did all the things at Walkwist Junior High. I'm pacing. I got to pick up the pace. I'm staying with it. And I finally decide, look, he's confused. He thinks he's going 440. Well, he wasn't confused. Oh, he had that long, beautiful, straight hair. Just, I'll never forget it, blowing in the wind across that landscape, which has all been torn down now. He just kept going. So Coach Reed, I run second, a very long distance second. Coach Reed, when I come across, he says, look at your time, Kevin. He was like, I was, remember, I'm an 8th grader. I think it was like 2:15, 2:7. I'm like, whoa, that's about as fast as I've ever, yeah. He said, look at his time. I'm like, what? That's under 2 minutes. That's record stuff. That's shattering high school records. That's the Utah State high school record. He just broke the Utah State high school record. Yeah. Wow, so he's the record holder. That's why he brought it. He says, no. It don't count. I'm like, why doesn't it not count? Because he's a Navajo boy. And I told Coach Reed, what? What are you talking about? Well, I had, before I forget, why I had leukemia, I had open heart surgery. My door was open. Some swallows made a mess here. This garage was a nightmare. My house is a disaster. 8 years trying to clean it up. I says, what do you mean it doesn't count? He says, there's the racism in this country. You do understand this is their place and their land. And by the way, could they play basketball? Well, I had a teacher, she just died, Mrs. Wayman, when I was 3rd grade. Her obituary's in the paper. She taught me. She grew up out here. She knew how much I love the muskrats and the tundra swans and the blue herons and how untouched so much of this wilderness was. I grew up walking and running on it. She says, Kevin, I know how much you love basketball. Do you know the Shoshone played basketball here for thousands of years? They had great big fields. And they had a ball, they put a pole up, and they would play for... She said, do you know how good they are? So again, I've been on the reservations at the games. Oh, they are good. He autographed that for me. It needs to be in a museum. Weber State doesn't give a shit. They don't care. Tokyo. In 1964, we won the gold medal. The U.S. I mean, it's so... These circles in the Tokyo Games, 64. I loved him. Coach Hershey destroyed my career. I ran in the Nathan Barker meet at BYU. Only invitees from the whole world. A kid named Bill Moore held that state record in the high jump. He and I were friends. I ran the fastest time I ever ran that day. Both of us got in some trouble, and I didn't even do anything. Self-righteous pricks in high school. It's a long story, but they destroyed my athletic career just like they do the native boys. It's all racism, it's all... So, this is important. The salmon have collapsed. Bill Monroe is coming out saying they're conservationists, and everybody's agreed to shut it down. Fuck you, Bill. Should shut it down. That's their prayer. In beauty may I walk, all day long may I walk. Through the returning seasons may I walk. Beautiful will I possess again. Beautiful birds, beautiful jolt for birds. On the trail marked with pollen may I walk. With grasshoppers about my feet may I walk. With dew about my feet may I walk. With beauty may I walk. With beauty before me may I walk. With beauty behind me may I walk. With beauty above me may I walk. With beauty all around me may I walk. In an old wandering on a trail of beauty. Lively may I walk. In old age wandering on a trail of beauty. Living again may I walk. It's finished, the beauty. I got to see the last of it. This is Edward Teller. No whatever that is meanwhile is simple in prospect. If it is right, it will be simple in prospect. Yeah, real simple. Look at it. He was Satan. So the stillhead have collapsed. We watched The River Runs Through It last night. I love that movie. By the way, inside the house I have the couch from A River Runs Through It. That was literally in the house that they filmed it. I have it. I have a 1888 blackjack table from Montana. Not Missoula, the romantic place. My uncle was the head ranger when I was a boy on the Bitterroot up there. We spent a lot of time, Salmon, Idaho, over the hill into Hamilton, up along the Lewis and Clark Trail. The salmon have collapsed. Bill Monroe says, we're conservationists, so the number's about in for the year. 50,000. We've gone in 4 years from 700,000 to 50,000. The last, I'll leave it as I don't want to start crying, but I might. You know Paul, one of my lifelong best friends. I met on the basketball court as a boy. Winchester. He and I got sick the exact same time. I was at the San Onofre hearing, full of cancer, blah, blah, blah. We're fighting for our lives, clinging to life. Both of us have the same ML, de novo leukemia moving in our bodies, no chance really to live. We're fighting. He calls me as soon as I get home. I'm sitting right here. Kevin, it's back. I'll be dead in a few. There's no hope. I'll be dead in a few days. I'm just clinging on. I've been trying to get a hold of you. Paul Winchester. I'll be dead in a few days. He spent an hour on the phone calming me down. What do you want me to do? One thing I want you to do, Kevin. We keep fighting for the salmon. He grew up in Arco, Idaho. He knew what killed him. We fished so many times right there. We tied flies. We fished so romantically, so beautifully. Our moms were both from there. My mom was from Lava. His mom was from Arco. They knew each other. You go fly fishing. You just go fly fishing. I want you to go fly fishing. There's a cancer foundation. I want you to go fly fishing. I says, yeah, if there's any salmon left, still have. So I want to donate these to a museum. Utah's, they don't care about history. They don't care about anything about history. I don't know. So I got to show you this. The mighty Wasatch. There's shit everywhere in this yard because I'm cleaning out this garage. So the grandsons, they've made them a fort here on the mighty Wasatch. So we've placed this beautiful place that I learned, the stillhead, the tundras, with a mega dairy, drained the marsh. There's their camp and their fort. We watched the river run through it last night at sunset in there. We had a cord out of the house. He's got a little TV in there. No one cares. I've had to watch this landscape be destroyed here in San Diego. I've watched them both die in my face. It's beyond heartbreaking. San Diego used to look like that. Are you in there? So, they're on the verge of extinction. They're dying at sea. People used to say, oh, what do these salmon go from San Diego to Idaho, like you, getting down in the spawning grounds? Like you, Kevin? What do they do? Drive up I-15? I-15 was 40th Street when I bought it. Freeway didn't go to San Diego. I remember when they built San Onofre, I was there, I'm like, my dad and my mom. The La Jolla tennis player. She was a tennis player from high school, the pinup artist at Woodbury. From Brigham City, she was a pinup artist at Woodbury in Los Angeles. My dad from here. They met there. On the beach, California, playing tennis in La Jolla. She was on a tennis scholarship, I think. Had to watch it. They go all the way up the California Current into the mouth of the Columbia River, swim through all that, up through those dams, make it all the way. My grandparents had a cabin at Redfish Lake when this redfish still got there. Stay tuned. Hello.